Okay, this video is all about PassportJS authentication. Okay, we're going to be dealing mainly with just Google authentication, but keep in mind there is all different kinds of authentication you can do: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I don't know, it's really endless, and we'll cover what that means exactly. Um, the reason why I'm making this video is because there are many videos out there that teach PassportJS, and I just found that they weren't very clear and they were too robust in a way to understand. So I break it down, just boilerplate PassportJS stuff, the core stuff, one page, one and done. All right. So let's dive right into it. All right, what's PassportJS? So let's go to passportjs.org. PassportJS, simple, unobtrusive authentication for Node.js. Okay, this is Express-based, so it works very well, with Express, and it gives you something called strategies um, that support authentication. It says here using a username and password, Facebook, Twitter, and more. Okay, so there's this PassportJS, and then there's strategies that you can use along with it. A strategy would be um, how am I going to connect with PassportJS? Am I going to use Google? Am I going to use Facebook? Am I going to use Twitter? Maybe I just want to use regular authentication where I'm typing in my email address and password. Okay, well, there's multiple things that we can find over here, multiple strategies. So let's, type in Google, which is the one we're going to do. Okay, so Google OAuth right here. This is the one we're going to use. Yeah. Okay, so let's let's start our app. Let's make an app. Just boilerplate stuff over here. Um, okay, we'll call it auth. What I like to do is whenever it comes to building authentication things is don't build it too specific, um, you know, to an app that you have in mind. More so build an authentication that has different strategies built in where you can just comment out a few lines of code to, comment out a strategy or uncomment some lines to, allow a strategy. Um, this is good because you can upload, a fully, built shell kind of app that has authentication and everything built in, and you have an idea for an app. You go, hey, let me download that repo from GitHub, and it takes away days of just work that there's no need for. So let's go right ahead. Let's call this auth, I guess. I already named it. So we're going to cmd into this folder, and we're going to initialize the folder with npm so we can install some things. Enter, 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 enter. Boom. Okay. All right. Now we have our package.json file. This package.json is going to hold, you know, all our um, dependencies and everything like so, and startup scripts and everything. So we can do a few things over here. If you're gonna deploy this to Heroku or something like that, you can, you know, Heroku has things that it looks for in the JSON file that tells it, like what kind of, for instance, what kind of node version are you using. So, we can specify that here in engines, and we can say node. I gotta put my, and we're using 8.9.1. I can specify an npm version. I believe we're on, I want to say 5.5.1. Yeah, I think that's correct. We can make some startup scripts over here. So we can do a start. Let's make a start. And I like to use NodeMon, and I'll show you what NodeMon is in 1 second. We'll run over it quickly. We're going to say start is just going to say node index.js. That's what we're going to start with that script. And we're going to do dev also. And we'll make that use NodeMon. NodeMon index.js. Ba-bang. Okay. Um, Very good. Now this is also, you don't have to set this up like this. This is just, you want to set up your app, set up the JSON file like this. You don't. This is not your app will run without this, right? You don't have to set engines. You don't have to set the startup scripts. You can obviously just run your file, which is node and your entry file over there. Yeah. So let me reopen this and using the folder. Okay. Now we're here. Great. So we have so far we have we initialized our folder. Let's install some npm libraries. npm install dash dash save express. There we go. And we're going to install npm install dash dash save. Now we're going to have to install Passport, but we're also going to have to install a Passport strategy. So let's go back to Google Chrome, where we have our PassportJS.org open over here, and we typed in Google in the strategy, and this came up. So we're going to click on this, and we're going to say, okay, well, what do we want to use over here? So this is a meta module that combines Passport auth 1, auth 2.0. Is this for backwards compatibility? Okay, they're basically saying, yeah. Okay, let's use 2.0. We'll use this over here. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to install npm install dash dash save. We're going to install Passport, and we're going to install the strategy that we want to use. So passport dash google dash oauth 20. And we're going to click enter here. Okay, that worked. Looks good. Let's click into Google OAuth here. Okay. So we see that for this strategy, we need to have a client ID, a client secret, and a callback URL. Okay, well, what is this? So you're gonna have to be authenticating with uh, with Google. So you're gonna have to somehow be talking to Google and somehow authenticating and allowing the user to say, yes, I allow mayorlunch.org to use my information to sign into this app over here, and somehow authenticate saying that, I am the person who I say I am. So we can do that by going to Google Developers Console right here. Okay, and we're gonna go to let's create a library. Let's go to Google here. Google Plus. Google Plus API. Alright, we have it enabled already because let me try to sign in with like a fresh account or something. So actually, let's see. I should be able to do this better. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna make a new project. I'm gonna call it auth-dev. We'll name it. Okay, and we're going to use the Google Plus API. Now you might have to auth-dev. It should take a few seconds for it to like spin up. Yeah, looks good. Looks good. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah, we're out. Now we're gonna have to enable APIs and services, and we're gonna search for Google Plus, and we want to get the Google Plus API. We're gonna have to enable that. Yeah. Okay, to use this API, you may need credentials. Click Create Credentials to get started. Okay. What API are you using? Google Plus API determines where we'll be calling the API from, determines we're sending a link to configure. We are calling it from web server Node.js. And what data will you be accessing? We're going to be accessing user data. What credentials do I need? What? Okay, so we're going to call this um, auth-dev client. Come on, client, and we'll create the client ID now. And that looks fine. Product name shown to users. We'll show them auth-dev. Continue. Download credentials. Let's do it later. Okay. Now, I created this thing called auth-dev-client. Okay. Now there's just a little bit more of a setup that we have to do over here. That is right here. Okay. Localhost. Actually, let's do HTTP / localhost, and we're going to explain what this means. Just set this up for now. Okay, we're going to go import 5000, and yeah. And for the next one up here, we're going to go to HTTP / localhost port 5000. And we're going to put this like this for now, but we're going to come back to this. All right, so if you don't understand what this means, don't worry. You don't have to right now. We're going to explain what this is. Okay. So let's get back to our app that we're building. I think I can close this for now. We have everything we need here. Okay, so we installed Passport. We installed Passport, the Google Auth strategy. So let's start a building. Yeah. Okay, so we had our entry script over here. We said it was going to be index.js, and the dev is nodemon index.js. In case you don't know what nodemon is just like you'd run your script using node index.js, you can use an npm package called nodemon index.js. That is installable by saying npm install global install nodemon. Okay, and what this allows us to do is it tracks changes as as you change them in your file, and it automatically restarts Node for you. So there's no need to stop your current server that you just spun up and restart it. It does all that for you, so it's very useful while you're developing. Okay, I already have mine installed over here, which might be why it's giving me an issue. Operation not permitted. That's fine. I'm using NVM, like a Node version manager, might be the reason, but no worries. I have it installed anyways, so I shouldn't have any issues yet. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to do CLS to clear. So we are using index.js as our entry script. So let's create that file. New file, index.js. Okay. And the first thing we're going to do over here is add Express to our app. Require Expresso. And we're going to add Passport. Passporto equals require Passport. Okay. Now just one thing I want to set up. I always like to do this when I create a new project, is a git ignore file. So git ignore. Okay, and the first thing I know I want to add is node modules. I don't need those showing up in GitHub. So just by adding node modules right away, if I were to push this to GitHub, initialize it to GitHub folder, and push it to GitHub repository, node modules will not be uploaded since it is in my git ignore file. Okay. Now, the second thing we need here is that Google strategy that we downloaded. Okay, so I'm going to call this Google strategy. Okay. And we're going to have to require the passport-Google OAuth 20 strategy. Okay, and the only thing we need from here right now is strategy. So you can go ahead and pull the strategy right out, like so. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create, using our passport, we're going to like instantiate our strategy. So let's passport.use easy use we're going to use a new Google strategy, right? And this takes an object which takes in multiple properties, right? What are those properties? If we go back to passport.js and we go to Google Auth 20, we can see what it takes in. It takes in a client ID, a client secret, a callback, and a function, callback function. Okay, so let's add those in right over here. So we're going to say client ID, and we're going to take in, right now I'm just going to leave this as an empty string for now, and we're going to take in a client secret, and we're also going to leave that as an empty string right now, and we're going to take in a callback URL, which we'll also leave it as a as an empty string right now. Let's do one thing right now. Let's go back to our where we set up the Google Auth Dev client, and we're going to click this. Okay, now if you see here, there is a client secret and a client ID. Okay, so let's copy these, and we're going to explain what each one of them is. Okay, you can just copy it right into client ID like so, and client secret like so. Okay, so what are these? This is how we are going to authenticate with Google, right? This is your public key, right? Everybody can see this. Okay, and this is your private key. You never want anyone to see this. Okay. This is one file that the secret key is not something that you want anybody to get. So you don't want this uploaded to GitHub. You don't want this getting in the wrong hands, because then people can start authenticating your users. So uh, let's not put this directly in this file. Okay, what do I mean? Let's create a new folder over here, and we're going to call it config. Okay, this is where we're going to have some stuff that we're just, we don't want to put our stuff directly in this file because this file is going to GitHub. Let's create something in the file in the config. We'll call it keys, right? This is where we're going to store our keys. Okay, and we're going to use the Node.js module.exports equals, and we're going to export a client. Let's call it Google Auth client ID. The reason why I'm naming it Google Auth client ID, because you can potentially have other keys over here. You could have a Facebook Auth client ID. You could have a database password or something, whatever it is. We're going to name this one Google Auth, and this one's just going to be secret. Okay. Now let's go ahead and copy or cut these strings right here. Just take the whole string out. Okay. Now we are going to get that keys file right here. So we're going to say const keys equals require /config/keys. Okay, now we're going to say keys dot Google Auth client ID, and we're also say keys dot Google Auth secret. Okay, the callback URL, and we're going to come back to this also, but let's just name it for now. We're going to say /auth /Google /callback. Don't worry about it means right now. We're going to come back to it. Okay, now let's hit up our gitignore file. And we're going to say that keys.js file, we don't want that to upload to GitHub. Boom. Alright, or we can actually just do the whole config folder. Okay. Yeah, so this is a part of the setup. We still got a little bit more to go, but we're basically there already. Okay. Right now we have just a little more to do right here. We're going to add a anonymous function right here, as required right here. Okay, and this is going to take in, we'll call this access token. Yep. Okay. So what do we have so far? We have Express installed, we have Passport, we have the Google strategy. We created we said passport.use Google strategy, and we have that built, right? So let's do one more thing. Let's actually get our Express app to run and make sure we don't have any errors or anything like that. So let's let's see the port that we're going to listen on, and port equals process.env port. I'm going to say 5000. Okay, this is the if you were to again, if you were to upload to like Heroku, they look at process.port.env to see what port to run on, or else, you know, if that is empty, you will be running on port 5000, you know, which would work for us locally. So app.listen, we have not instantiated our app. We have not called it, actually, not instantiated. Let me correct. App equals express. Okay. And now I'm going to say app.listen on port, which will be whatever Heroku injects in there, or if we're not running on Heroku and we're running locally, it'll be 5000. Okay, I'm actually going to add a callback in here so that we know it starts up without any errors, and we're going to say hansel.log. We're going to say listening on porto, port, right? Whatever port we're listening, that's what's going to happen. So let's check it out. So we're going to say npm run dev, or you can say nodemon index.js, like so. Google strategy is not a constructor. What is going on here? Let's check it out. What's going on over here is that we, for some reason, said Google strategy over here, and where we should just be getting strategy out. Don't even remember typing that. I remember typing strategy. Interesting. Okay. But now, as we see, nodemon detected a change, and it automatically rebooted, and now it is working. Okay. Let's add some more things over here. So we have to add the express route to actually get to Google so that we could authenticate. So let's make an express route. We're going to say app.get, okay? And we are going to say /auth/Google passport.authenticate Google. And we're also going to pass into here a object, okay? We're going to say scope. We're just going to write this out, and I'm going to explain what it means. Profile. So what is going on over here? We are saying app.get all/Google, and we're now using the passport.authenticate, and we're saying Google. All right, now what is Google? We're passing in a string Google. What is going on over here? Okay, so before this get, Passport, we told Passport to use something called a Google strategy, and we gave it a Google client ID and all that stuff. Um, Somewhere built into Google strategy, there is a string called Google that we're referring to over here. So this is not arbitrary. I'm not just writing Google. This is built into Google strategy. There's somewhere in there, there is a string that's I'm associated with the string called Google, which is what I'm telling Passport to use. Scope over here is saying, okay, what are you authenticating? What are you trying to get from this authentication? So my scope that I'm trying to get is profile and email. Okay, we're going to create one more thing, and we're going to create our callback route, and we're going to say slash auth slash Google slash callback. Okay, passport dot authenticate with the Google. Okay, now, should we actually give it a shot? Let's give it a shot. So we are listening on port 5000. App is not defined. App is not defined. App is not defined. Where's app not? Why is app not defined? Why? Because you gotta put it there, little man. Okay, so we're listening on port 5000. So let's go ahead and check out localhost port 5000. Cannot get. We have no default route over here. Let's go to auth slash Google. What is going on? Okay, we get a 400. That is not. That's an error. We get something called a redirect URI mismatch. Okay, now just to show you, we have things that look correct over here, right? So if you look at this HTTPS over here, well, yeah, let's look at it right here. They break it down for us. Response type is code, which is good. We want to get back a code, right? What we're trying to do is authenticate with Google, receive a code back so that we can follow up requests and say, hey, this guy gave me this code to come back to Google and be able to follow up requests and get info. Give me his info. And Google will say, okay, is the code correct? Yes, go ahead, right? We got this redirect URI, right, which is supposed to go to auth, Google, callback. Our scope is profile and email, client ID, and this is our client ID over here, which everybody can see. So what is going on? Okay, well, remember we set up this our credentials over here, and there was redirect URIs. Well, that's what it's saying over here. Our callback function over here, callback URL, is our callback URI. If this does not match what matches to one of these over here, you will get an error. So let's change this to slash auth slash Google slash callback. Give me 1 second. Let me just plug these in over here. So let's save that. Okay, make sure it actually saves. And let's go back to our localhost. Localhost auth slash Google. Great. Whoa, awesome. Okay, Mayor Lynch. And we get client secret is missing. Well, that must be an error on our end. Let's check this out. Client secret. Secrect. That's our problem. If you get something like that, client ID is missing, a parameter is missing, it's usually in your code. You had a small mistype or something like that. Yeah. So let's try that one more time. Take 9. Okay, I'm gonna authenticate me. And now we see right here, it's just kind of hanging. and eventually it's going to turn into an error. But what's happening is that we're not actually, and we're not going to learn this session over here, but we're not actually telling it, you know, what to do next. It's just hanging there, waiting for us. But let's console.log this access token right here. Let's see what we get. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this right here, all/Google, to continue to auth dev. Okay. And we get this long token, right? This is what we're going to use this is our access token. Okay. Now, there are actually a little more parameters that this does take in over here. So this takes in a refresh token, and this takes in a profile, and finally it takes in something called done. Okay, we're not going to get to what done is. We're going to have a follow-up video, and we're going to get a little deeper into Passport, but this is overall Passport. Let's run this one more time to see what we get. Okay, let's go back here. I'm going to X that out, go back, localhost/auth/Google, and authenticate. I don't think my app restarted. Let's try this again. Nodemon index.js. There we go. So the first thing that came out was our access token. Our refresh token was undefined. We don't have one. And our profile, right, came all out. All right. Our Google user ID, our display name, family name, my email address. This is good stuff over here. Okay. Okay, so that is that for this video. A short overview of what we did. We installed Express, we installed Passport, we installed Passport strategies. We learned about the keys that we're going to need for the Google strategy. We learned how to do a setup with Passport and make Passport use a strategy. We spun up an Express server and made some auth routes that we can actually go to Google, come back with a token, a profile, and an email, and we created our callbacks over there, and we successfully logged our access tokens and profiles and stuff. You can kind of see how this is going to work. Now you can start storing the stuff in a database and either logging the user in or creating a new user for him, if he hasn't yet logged in with Google. But this can kind of get really cool now, and we're gonna have a follow-up video soon, real soon, to really get into cookies and all that kind of awesome stuff. All right, that is all.